Today we're bringing to you guys a bit of a different profile. Generally speaking, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is easy to build decks in the sense that most decks are usually using the same staples. It's just thinking around how are you gonna run those staples. Today I'm just gonna bring to you guys Magical Musket. This deck is an old favorite of mine. I finally could get my hands on the deck and finally get all the pieces I needed to actually build the deck. And here it goes. We got Place Item Casper. Magical Muskets all have the same effect that they allow you to activate archetypal spell traps from the hand. And the second effect is if you have a card be activated in the same column as the monster, they all have a different effect. For example, Magical Musket Caspar adds one spell trap, I think it is. Yeah, he adds one spell or trap card from deck to hand. We have a set of those. We play Playset of Starfire, if I'm not wrong. I have to remember myself with this one. She's a special one level 4 will lower from deck. Play 3 of them because those are the better ones. Play Playset of Magical Musketeer Kid Brave. He says discard one Magical Musket card, draw 2. Then the second best Magical Musket, I would argue you run 2 Kid Brave and 2 Dog. Well, 2 and 3 Dog, but I need to test this version out first. So what Doc says is if a spell or trap is activated in the same zone as him, you get to recycle one from your graveyard. So usually I'll get to it in a bit, but there's some setups you can do with it. Next up for our one-offs, we play one wild, one calamity. Calamity says if a spell or trap card is activated in her zone, you get to special summon one from grave, and Wild says if a spell or trap card is activated in his zone, you recycle 3 Magical Musket cards from your graveyard, shuffle them into the deck, and draw 1. That's it for monster, like our archetypal monster lineup. Hand traps, we play Playset of Ash Blossom. There's no other way to put it, this is probably the best hand trap in the format. If you're canceling out Branded Fusion, you're really good. If not, it's still the most versatile hand trap at the moment. It stops special summons, it stops Foolish Burial, and it stops summoning from graveyard. No, wait, special summon. Yeah, just adding special summoning. It's just the best hand trap overall. After that, we have staple I am saying is kind of underrated this format, DD Crow. DD Crow allows you to target one card on the graveyard and banish it. So if you're playing against Brandon, you can banish whatever they're trying to recycle, especially the Obby and the one that sets one spell from the graveyard, well, from the deck. And there's a lot you can do with it. Effect Veiler, overall, great hand trap. I also have a specific reason to be playing Effect Veiler over Infinite Impermanence in this build, but you can also run Infinite Impermanence. We have Playset of Draw, well, our last hand trap is 2 Draw and Lockbird. Draw and Lock is a tech. Right now, this could be swap out for anything. This is like your flex spot on hand traps. But I feel like Draw and Lock can be used in some matchups. But I would argue this is one of those flex spots in the deck. The other flex spot in terms of monsters are the Wild Wish. Not a lot of people like to play with, and you can tinker around with the ratios. I like Wild because it gives me more playability long term. Onto spells, archetypal, we play Playset of Cross Domination. Cross Domination is the card that makes this tinker around. It says target one monster on the field, negate its effect, and lower its attack to 0. And you can do some pretty neat things. The only issue you might have is that it's hard once per turn, but really it's one of the better ones. The other one is Steady Aim. Steady Aim makes it so a monster can't attack you directly. So usually it doubles attack of one of your magical muskets. You will be using that not to push for game, but to get over certain stuff if you're not just blowing them up. Lastly, for quick play, we are playing 2 Forbidden Chalice. And Forbidden Chalice is one keepsake right now, having it is pretty good. Call by the Grave. We don't like losing to any hand traps, but if we do, we do. Warm Harpy's Feather Duster for mandatory back row removal. Lastly, 2 Pot of Desires. It's Pot of Greed. You're playing almost 3 copies of every single archetypal card. And that's it for spells. For traps, we only play archetypal traps. Tinkering around with those ratios can be and will be suggested, but plays out of Desperado. This is the best trap card in the archetype. It pops a card on the field. Then you have 2 Last Stand, so if they activate a spell or trap, you can just negate it. It's really good. What I don't like about Last Stand is that usually I feel like I get clocked with it in hand, and having it in hand stuck is not really good. The last card I have is Pithing Needle. Dancing Needle is honestly one of the best reasons to play this deck right now. Or, well, not really one of the best reasons to, but honestly, it's a really underrated trap card. It says, if you control a magical musket, target up to 3 cards in the graveyard, banish them. So if you're playing against any graveyard-oriented deck, you can just banish them. You might be saying, or some people might argue that, oh, you have that and 2 Pot of Desires. Well, the reason why you play one of is you can search it. I won't do a side deck for this version of the deck, because I don't have a side deck prepared. I just prepared this at the spur of the moment, so as you may see, if somebody that actually knows about this deck will be like, what the fuck is this guy doing? I just prepared this deck, and I have been slightly testing it with whatever I had. Another option, instead of playing Pot of Desires, if you really think you really need your deck, you can play Pot of Extravagance, but again, the extra deck will vary a lot. So for extra deck, we have 2 Max. Max is really good. He just says, compare, you special summon him. When he's summoned, he gets 2. I need to read this card. I keep forgetting what he does. I haven't played Master Duel. This is my go-to deck on Master Duel, but I haven't played it in a long time. You add up to the number of monsters. You either add spells up to the number of monsters your opponent controls, or you special summon monsters up to the number of spell traps your opponent controls. And he also has the magical musket effect of activating spell or trap with magical musket names from the hand. Next up, 2 Nightmare Phoenix. I don't like back row decks. I hate playing against them. And honestly, if you're playing Max, you can just go Phoenix sometimes, discard something, pop a back row. Playing 2 is excessive. This is probably where the 3rd Max would be, but I don't have him at the moment. But for now, 2 Phoenix can work well. Other Link 2s you can play, but rather questionable. You have Hulk and IP Masquerena. Magical Musket has this weird thing where you are really specific on what you're playing on your extra deck. You either playing really big hitters in extra deck monsters, or XCs, rank 4 XCs. You're generally not playing synchros. You can play them, but it's just too resource intensive to summon them. That's it for my Link 2s. Why we play Hulk is because if we have 2 monsters or we have something set up, we can just go into one of our 3 Link 3s. We have Unicorn, discard 1, spin something from the field to the deck. Draco Will Berserker of Tenji is, on my opinion, one of the most underrated Link 3 monsters. Yes, it requires a Link monster, but he cannot be destroyed by battle with an effect monster, so keep that in mind. So if you're just going into grind game, that's a 2500 that you can summon off of any magical musket plus anything that's a level 3 tuner. And you summon him and stick around with it. If not, you have Unicorn. If you're going into something more, you have a triple burst in this case. Solar track cards cannot be activated and damage step. And if not, you tribute this card. And revive a Link 2 or lower monster in your graveyard. So, if you're going into battle, you can just go something like Hulk, summon something, Effect Value, link those two off, get triple burst, attack, negate something, tribute, get Hulk back, and link again up to something. If not, you can go Hulk into Nightmare Unicorn, discard something and spin something into deck, or Hulk into Draco Berserker of Draco Master of the Tenyi. Instead of playing this, you can also play the Celine package, which is why I'm playing one Boral Solar, one Axis Cold. Really heavy extra deck spaces. I wouldn't really recommend playing too many links because you're not really gonna link summon item, just playing a lot of stuff because at the moment it just feels right. If you have Celine, you substitute. I would argue triple burst for Celine. That way you have access code to our turbo package. Uh, access code is good old pop pop pop, and Boral Solar Dragon just can help OTK. It's the good old version of access code before access code was a good card, or before access code was released. XYCs, I'm only playing 4. Light Dragon out Ignister, it's Tash 1, Pop 1. Castrol the Tash 2, spin back something into the deck. If not, it's just Book of Moon, then Tornado Dragon for more back row removal, and they go Snow Emerald. They go Snow Emerald is really not great in the deck, but it was the only rank 4 I currently have in the deck because I haven't played a rank 4 deck in well over a long time. Most of the decks that I have been profiling recently have been link heavy decks, and that just means that I am not ready to make a rank 4 deck easily without actually buying the stuff. So we go into a quick test hand. I know this is why most of my videos have been going far off, but yeah. If we're going second, we have a perfect hand, we have 3 hand traps, we have 1 starter, and if we draw a card, we have Desperado, which is a really good trap card. So let's just say we stop them and we can just keep playing. If we're going first, that hand would have been really bad. You would have lost the game. Not even you would have just lost. You have hand traps, you can defend yourself, but most decks can play through it. You have 4, 5. This is a more playable lineup. Use a normal cast bar. Set the called by. Hope your opponent doesn't play something that's not Graveyard reliant. You go Dancing Needle, cast bar effect when something's activated on his deck. Not on his deck, on his line. You can go either Desperado if you really need that pop, or Cross Domination if you need the negation. Usually, it depends on what you need. Dancing Needle will do a lot. If you're playing against a spell heavy deck, you can also search for Last Stand. So I'll pick up Cross Domination in this quote unquote case. Then we go Call by the Grave something, DD Crow something if we're really just feeling like, oh wow, we're just winning. Go Cross Domination on something, pass turn, draw it, they set something, you go Dock, link away the Dock, and just play from there. You go Axe, special summon a lot of stuff, and you should be able to get a board from there. But yeah, that's the deck profile. Hope you guys enjoyed, and if you're an actual Magical Musket player, leave comments because I know this deck profile is probably one of the most questionable ones you might have seen in a while. Peace out.